Welcome, my name is Raul and this is the Resistance Framework, the channel dedicated to investing in disruptive technologies to hedge against the ways that the corporate elites, big banks, and governments all over the world are trying to screw us all over on a daily basis. Give this video an early like to help push this content out to more people. This first episode is about the Great Reset and central bank digital currencies and why they pose a threat to our freedom, our privacy, and our financial well-being. Let's get to it. 2020 has been a rough year. Some of us lost our jobs, our businesses, or a loved one. Others paid the ultimate price and lost their lives. If not to the pandemic, then to police brutality. Even further igniting the flames of civil unrest. The beginning of 2021 wasn't much better. We had to witness the pillars of democracy crumble with an attack on the U.S. Capitol.
We will finish the job of getting a total of $2,000 in cash relief to people who need it the most.
Hey, at least all that free government money is going to ease some of the financial pain, right? Well, it's going to ease some in the short term, but in the long term, it's going to be detrimental to our freedom. Why, you might ask? Well, the answer is simple. It was the great economist Milton Friedman that once said, "Nothing is so permanent as a temporary government program." They basically constituted universal basic income. A lot of people used to be opposed against it, and now that's pretty much what we have with all these new stimulus packages. Well, it's good to help the people in need right now, but like I said before, it's going to be detrimental to our freedom. For one simple reason, we're all becoming dependent upon the government. And people that are dependent upon the government are less likely to rise up against that government. Less likely to call the government out on their bullshit when they step out of line. And believe me, they will step out of line eventually. With all the central banks printing money like no tomorrow, further devaluating the currency every day, let's do a quick history lesson and see what money used to be and what money should have been today. As far as human history goes back, gold and silver was always money. And up until 50 years ago, gold and silver were the things backing money. That all ended in 1971 when President Nixon took the US and therefore by proxy the rest of the world off the gold standard.
I directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets.
And from this point on, money was basically created out of thin air, merely backed by the faith people all over the world placed in the United States and its economy. After the financial crisis of 2008, many people became dissatisfied with the current financial and monetary system. Out of this dissatisfaction came Bitcoin, a new form of money, by the people, for the people.
You confiscate a few $1 billion out of private bank accounts and you print a couple $1 trillion, and all of a sudden, you know what happens? People start to worry. So out of this worry, we have something called the Bitcoin. Zooming in value lately, just unbelievable how much this has taken off.
After Bitcoin came many other cryptocurrencies, all based off the same blockchain technology. A lot of people placed their faith in these cryptocurrencies above their nation's fiat currency. And of course, government leaders couldn't have that. Thus started a great war on crypto, a war of misinformation and lies. Oh, a quick side note before you go run off and buy Bitcoin, go watch my other video titled The Binary Bet, where I explain when and why you should and should not be buying Bitcoin. A link to that video should be appearing at the top of this video right about now. Now let's get back to this video. Now, where were we? Oh yes, the war on crypto. Janet Yellen has been pretty vocal against Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. That's okay, that's her opinion. She says it's primarily used for illegal financing. And again, that's okay, that's her opinion. Opinions are like buttholes, everybody has one. One thing I find pretty interesting is that Janet Yellen has been paid over $7 million in total for speaking engagements at banks and financial institutions. At one such speaking engagement, she made $292,500 just for giving one freaking speech. If I didn't know any better, I'd start to think that Janet Yellen was in the pocket of the big banks, and that the real reason she was so firmly against Bitcoin and crypto is because it's not her banker friends that control it. It's not her banker friends that make money off its sale. Hmm, Maybe her opinion will change once all these banks push for regulation on crypto. And of course, it's the banks and the financial institutions that are going to have to regulate it. I mean, how could we stupid normal people go about buying and selling crypto without them regulating us? We're obviously too stupid to do that. Nope. They gotta regulate it and they gotta make the money. I'm sure once they regulate it more and all of the money flows into the banks and big financial institutions, that Janet Yellen will be okay with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Where in the US you have Janet Yellen, in Europe you have Christine Lagarde, head of the International Monetary Fund. Let's hear what she had to say in a recent interview.
Highly speculative assets, which has conducted some funny business and some interesting and totally reprehensible money laundering activity.
Ah, yes, the money laundering narrative again. Since we're on the topic of money laundering, in 2018 and 2019, Reuters reported the biggest money laundering scandal in recent history, and that money laundering was done by big European banks. The banks Miss Lagarde loves so much. But hey, I guess it's not so bad when it's your friends doing the money laundering, huh? A big Dutch bank, ING, was fined $900 million for failing to spot money laundering in their organization. Now, back to the topic of what was that phrase she used again?
Funny business.
Ah, yes, funny business. Well, what some people might find funny business is being the head of the IMF, getting convicted for negligence in a big fraud trial, but yet keeping your job and not going to jail. Somehow, I get the feeling that if it were me or Joe Schmo that was convicted for negligence in a big fraud trial, we would not be escaping jail time. But hey, who the hell cares about equal justice for all, right? In addition to preventing and discouraging people from buying Bitcoin and other assets that can serve as a hedge against international failing monetary policy, tax law is another avenue that those in power can use to keep us poor. Let's see what Charles Hoskinson, co-creator of popular cryptocurrency Ethereum and creator of cryptocurrency Cardano, had to say about it in a recent interview.
Are two tax policies in particular that are new and never been done before in the United States that could be catastrophic to the cryptocurrency industry and to the entire startup industry of America. So let's say that you invested in a small cap cryptocurrency that doesn't have a lot of liquidity, and that cryptocurrency goes up 100x by the end of the year, but it has very little trading volume. The IRS will say, well, congratulations, you got 100x ROI, so here's your tax bill. And then it collapses the very next day, 90%. You will still be taxed as if you got 100x capital gain, even though you didn't realize it. Think about that. You might ask, well, what happens if it goes in the opposite direction and the markets collapse? Do I get a credit or something? No.
I think this is all part of a bigger plan to keep us, the masses, poor, obedient, and controllable. The elites have even said this straight to our face. They did this through the World Economic Forum. The World Economic Forum is a yearly gathering of top CEOs, international bankers, and government leaders from all over the world. You will own nothing, That's what they said. I repeat, you will own nothing. Why do you think you will own nothing? It's just because they will own everything. I am not a fan of hedge fund managers, but even they are starting to see that the plan to tax unrealized capital gains is going to make investing less attractive. And when I say less attractive, I mean less attractive for the mom and pop small retail investor. People that don't have the money to pay these huge tax bills up front and are going to be forced to sell their positions every year, leaving the big gains for only those at the top who have the money to pay those tax bills, knowing that their asset they own might go up even more in the next year.
The concept that just as a condition of breathing, every year the government can just come and take money from us because they think that we have too much is an incredibly dangerous and very damaging situation. The more damaging to startups is this concept of taxing unrealized capital gains. It absolutely blew me away that the Treasury Secretary nominee, Janet Yellen, apparently says she's going to consider it. And this is actually being taken seriously. And we need to understand what taxing unrealized gains means. Let's say you're an entrepreneur and you start a business and you have very little capital and you go and get some investors in that business. So they go and put some money in and you suddenly have a valuation. So that worthless stock that you have now, let's say, has a $5 million or $10 million valuation. Most startups at that valuation have no assets. They have not a lot of capital. You're probably a poor entrepreneur. You have no means to do anything. But you may own 70% of that company. So you've had an unrealized capital gain of millions of dollars. And so at the end of the year, the IRS will say, well, you've just had an unrealized capital gain of, let's say, $7 million because you own 70% of that company valued at $10 million, when it went from nothing to $10 million in valuation. Here's your tax bill. Please pay us $2 million. Where do you get the money for? There's no market for your stock. It's completely illiquid. You have no money because you're a poor entrepreneur who's just starting something and building something, but you've just been taxed $2 million for an unrealized capital gain. And the taxing of unrealized capital gains means that no one can be an entrepreneur anymore unless they're independently wealthy and can afford to pay millions of dollars in taxes as their company increases in valuation. Look up the number of companies that are under a $25 million valuation that have failed over the last 10 years in Silicon Valley. It's over 90%. But every single one of those, the people who founded those companies would get a multi-million-dollar tax bill for starting them, even though they failed and made no money whatsoever. You tell me if that's a fair tax system. It's horrific.
Well, I think Charles just hit the nail on the head. With the taxation of unrealized capital gains, nobody can be an entrepreneur anymore unless they are already independently wealthy. Well, what does that mean for the land of opportunity? Well, this is what I think it means. Now and in the past, if you had a great idea for a product or service, you could start your own business, find investors, bring it to market, and maybe one day make it big, get rich, and contribute to society. Now that's all gone in that new situation, since you won't have the money to pay that huge tax bill up front. You can't be an entrepreneur. You're going to be forced to sell your idea to somebody that already has money, making them even richer, while you might just receive a small percentage, or even worse, a fixed fee for selling your idea, and then that other person who you were forced to sell your idea to maybe makes millions off your idea. This brings us to the last part of this video: central bank digital currency. Potentially the final blow to our financial well-being. And definitely the final blow to our financial privacy. Christine Lagarde looked pretty happy discussing it in a recent interview. And in general, I have the feeling that whenever she's happy about something, we, the people, have nothing to be happy about.
Clearly, what we're seeing, which is in a completely different category, is the development of digital currencies, which is an area where we have begun doing a lot of work.
The end game here is to get rid of physical cash, only allowing the digital currency, thus completing their total control over us and our financial well-being. That is why I view central bank digital currency as enemy code, where Bitcoin was friendly code made with good intentions to the people. I view central bank digital currency as enemy code, an enemy to the people, a tool for our oppressors, a tool for those who wish to keep us poor and obedient and controllable. As a closing statement, let's listen to the words of somebody wise that shares my name, Mr. Raoul Paul, legendary investor and CEO of Real Vision. Here is what he said in a video he released in October 2020.
Digital currencies are the central banks operating directly to you. So you have an account with a digital wallet with the central bank. This could be a really, really good way to solve many of the world's problems. It solves the problems of getting money to people who need it, because they can give it to different people in different ways. They can give students a positive interest rates to help them save, but then penalise with negative interest rates the baby boomer saver because they want to release their money back into the economy. The issue is here is to have this new system, you're going to give up your freedom. You are going to have every transaction you've ever done and ever will do recorded. There is no cash. There is no way of tipping the gardener unless it goes by cash. It means that they can tax you at every transaction level. Now that's great. We could get rid of the IRS and all of the tax collection agencies because it could be done directly. That's good. But again, you've lost your freedom to transact in anonymity that cash gives you.
Join the resistance. Press the like and subscribe button. Press the notification bell to join me in future videos where I will be sharing what measures I am taking and in what I will be investing to ensure my privacy and financial well-being.
You remember I said with the last words on my lips, I am a revolutionary. And you're going to have to keep on saying that.